It is great to be back in Erie, and I'm going to introduce my 3 books, the Good Fight series. I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know, but I think it'll be good for you to hear it again from me. Second, there is something different in my writing. First of all, what is the good fight? The good fight is very simply a reach for the meaningful. And I told you, again, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. So is that whatever it is we pick to do, we bet our life on. Whatever it is we pick for meaning, we bet our life on, because whether we live to 20 or 50 or 90, no one gets out of here alive. And so this is a reminder that we've got to pick something that is meaningful to us. A paraphrase from Jim Collins, that people on their deathbed are going to realize that they didn't live the great life because they settled for the comfortable life. And here's the catch. It costs you something. All right, if you really go for the meaningful, it will cost you a lot. Whatever it is, eventually it'll break your heart, because if you do something and you really do the reach, sooner or later you're going to have a major failure, and if somebody wants to take credit for something you've done or directly oppose you or say, no, you really didn't do that anyway. So when you're going for the meaningful, you've got to be happy that what it is you're betting your life on is worth it, because these guys are going to beat us. If you get knocked down 100 times, you still get back up and you still move on, because again, it's meaningful enough to you to do that, whatever it is you do. And we are great because we feel so passionate about our cause. All right, it's not an emotionless thing, it's because you feel. That's the Good Fight series, exactly what I just talked about. Regular people who make the extraordinary commitment, but eyes open that it does cost you something, and realization that it is worth it. But in the end of the day, you got to act, and you're not going to know 100%. You're not going to have all the assumptions. You got to move, you got to act. So I want to mention that the Good Fight and these folks here all had a bias for action, even if they didn't know exactly how they were going to get it done. Grace Under Pressure, I borrowed this from Ernest Hemingway. He wrote For Whom the Bell Tolls, and he talked about true test of manhood was courage under fire. So the true test of professionalism is grace under pressure. When you fight the good fight, whatever it is that gives your life meaning, you are going to lose sleep at night. You're going to toss and turn. You're going to face pressure that is really going to bug you. And if you go in with your eyes open and say, no matter how tough this is, I'm going to display grace under pressure, it will help you out. So what Herodotus is saying here is, when you think you've got victory, double your efforts. In other words, you got to finish strong. And that's another thing that I'd just like to point out on perseverance is, I don't care if you're on the 50-yard line or on the 1-foot line, you got to finish strong. Okay, so, well and good. Who are you? Who are you to say such things? So I'm going to give a relatively short pictorial about who I am. That is my grandfather. He came through Ellis Island in 1912 from Austro-Hungarian Empire, actually area of Polish. This is my dad in a World War II shot, a Navy shot. Now, interestingly enough, 6 of those 10 boys wound up in World War II. All 10 wound up in the military. All 6 ended up in World War II. Here's another picture that was in B&O Times of all 6. This is my dad right here. Interesting thing is, you can complain about anything in this family, because you'd hear about WWII, the big one. So I write about fishing as a kid. I fished as a kid. Right, this is me and my brother as a kid in Cinnamahoney, actually Susquehanna of First Fork. This is me at 12 years old. I shot a deer. I write about hunting. I did these things. Altar boy at St. Mary's. I was at the Du Bois Central Catholic, and you look at the 70s. I mean, look at our teacher, what he's wearing right there. I had to join as a private. So this is me joining as a private, actually right here. This is my hand. Met the woman of my dreams, Diana, in Gannon, and this woman made me. So I can't say anything but good things about it. It turns out only cadets went with olive drab. So in a sea of BDUs, they could say cadets drop, and 3 people would get down and got married. And Our Lady of Peace, right off 38th. So what did the launch pad look like? It looked like this a few months later, right? And so here I am in a tent in the Fulda Gap. What did it look like outside the tent? It looked like that. And most of the management was done with, charts and grease pencils. And to me, that's very interesting. You can get a lot done, without a spreadsheet that's got 15 tabs. Occasionally we'd have some formals. And again, this was good to drive through East Germany to go to Berlin. And here's me standing outside the Berlin Wall. And this was 1987, before Reagan's speech. And it seemed like the Cold War was never going to end. I mean, family reunion years ago, just attended one 2 days ago. And so I thought I was getting out of the Army at this point. So this is hours before leaving. There's actually a scene from this book where this picture was taken. Hours before I leave, this actually got locked down in Iraq. I mean, you don't see it, but I mean, basically litmus stuff we put there. So we feared Sarah nerve agent like I can't describe. I was involved in the capture of 3 prisoners. So somebody said, hey, look up when I ran out there. So these are sergeants, and these are 3 actually Republican guards of the Hammurabi. And I'm the guy here with the M16 strapped across his back. After that, headed off to California. This is Columbia River Gorge, Trinity College. This is Singapore with a friend of mine. This is Burlington. At this point, you think, well, semiconductors. And we would go into these fabs and clean rooms. And the only picture I have of what we actually did This is the closest I get. So this was taken after that, but every place we'd go and dressed up like this. We'd wear clean room suits. Got to see some celebrities. This is Jim Plunkett, which is interesting. His thumb was over here. I don't know if you've ever shaken a quarterback's hands, but they're like this long. But nonetheless, so I got to see some things. I got to have a realm of experiences. So this is the last picture. You've indulged me. I dedicated this book, Marx and Ford, to my son David, and try to inspire him to think critically on both things. This one here I dedicated to my wife Diana, and the dedication reads to my wife Diana, who met me as a rough around the edges 17-year-old. It was at Gannon. I said, you not only listen to all my crazy dreams, you believe them, and I've spent 30 years of my life trying to prove worthy of that belief. So that is to this one. Now this book is really dedicated to folks here. I mean, this is really the Western Pennsylvania book, and this was inspired actually by candidate Obama's comments that Western Pennsylvanians cling to they're bitter, and they cling to their religion and guns and antipathy to people who aren't like them. And I was first a little irritated about it. Last year, when folks started, I mean, I'm out in California, so I got to hear it firsthand. When folks started talking about a politician speaking with courage, and this is what they viewed Western Pennsylvania, I thought, you know, time out. Somebody ought to take a shot at setting the record straight. And I thought the real Western Pennsylvania story is that cities like Erie or Pittsburgh didn't collapse after Still collapsed. The people who stayed here, they fought and they rebuilt it. And they, you know, if you look at Pittsburgh, you look at Erie, I think that is the Western Pennsylvania story. But again, as I point out in every one of these books, there was a cost associated with that. And so I did a little research at it and tied it into this book, Historical Fiction. So that's me. So you say, okay, wow, that's great. Can he write? So he's got a background. I mean, Stephen King doesn't have a background. He can't draw on experiences like that, right? But can he write? Well, I've got a couple reviews, lively dialogue, and she goes, I think these people are believable in their flawed beings and their heroic moments. I thought, perfect. Here is one, a school teacher actually, and you know, she's talking about the development of the characters, enabled me to know them. I can't tell you how many times I laughed and cried. And she said her son is in college, and she thinks that every college person really ought to read this book. Now this is one. Basically, so that was Marx and Ford from Loud and Clear. Now, something that I just got permission to play yesterday, and this is from my old commander. Just a couple weeks before we got deployed, he got injured and couldn't go with us, and it tore him up. But whatever else I may have got wrong with the book, when I listened to this, I thought I got a few things right. So let me make sure I can get this thing playing here.
Hi, Luke and Diana. A voice from your past. Luke, thank you so much for the book. What a nice book. I read it all in 1 week. Really couldn't quite put it down because it just brought back so many memories from my basic all the way forward. Maybe some tears along the way, especially there towards the end. I've never really gotten over the humiliation of losing the battalion. I still feel awful. But anyway, I wanted to say hi. I will get back to you. And I enjoyed the book. I have a few things I wanted to share with you. And my best to you all. I love you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Now this guy, there was no such thing about being a nice guy in this guy's battalion when it came to getting the job done. I mean, he expected you to be a hardcore. So I mean, it's very, very touching. I mean, so that I know I haven't told you anything you haven't heard before. All well and good. So I know why. Pick the meaningful, but this is my picture reading. Okay, but how? So how am I supposed to get in foot? So I'm like you. I mean, I told you my background. I showed you my high school picture. I mean, I had a history teacher dressed in plaid pants, for crying out loud. So I'm just like you. Nothing special there. So I try to use these books, historical fiction, right, to tell you how I think you can get in the good fight, just being a regular guy, make an extraordinary commitment. So quick summary. Again, I've got real deference for everybody here. I know I'm not said anything different. Hopefully, you enjoyed hearing it. The good fight is simply a grasp for meaning. Better to pick the great than the comfortable. And I, for some reason, don't see this. It will hurt, but it's worth it. Perseverance is required is a cliche, but again, the greatness isn't that you don't get knocked down, it's that you get back up. Writing, informed by broad background. Again, Stephen King doesn't have. So I think my early readers validate the skill, and in particular, my old commander, I had that for your conclusion. You know it. Let's fight the good fight.